beginning of the October-November turn, and, well, oh shit, I forgot to roll for wind over here. Oh, maybe I did, I don't know. We have a new gale showing up. The wind direction changed completely, so now it's pushing out, which will make things a little easier on the Russians. We're moving forward. This is up to 2. These guys are here, that's fine. These guys, nothing really to do. I'll push this in here, but it's almost obviously a thing, and this doesn't dumb me. And we'll move there. Now over to the land side. I don't have a lot of time here, so I'm not going to make it through much of the turn before I have to go to work. Try not to take shortcuts like I did over here. I forgot to do the operational phase first. I got a Swedish epidemic, which could have affected the naval side of things. I mean, yes, they took the losses that I'm now allocating against them. Again, that's not in the rules, but it seemed like a good solution that both the designer and I kind of stumbled upon. He came up on it as the first thing when I asked him the question, and I had already kind of been playing with the idea, just not as severe as he was doing it, and I like the results of it. I am kind of tinkering with it, though, to try to decide. So I spread out the 20 points of damage to the Swedes. Now, if I can just choose where those are, I'm not going to take that on these ships, but I took an extra point on each of those. I'm going to kind of try to make it a requirement that every ship take a point or something like that, just to spread the effects of it and make it a worse issue. It's a work in progress with that. Anyway, on top of that, initiative was tied because both players had the same amount of ops points. The Swedes have 2 here, and the Russians have 2 sets of 1. They got an unassigned one last turn. So I had to roll off. The Russians got the initiative. They want to go first because they want to hit the Swedes again, and they want to try to drive them into nothingness. The Swedes also took another step loss over here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to completely wipe the Swedes out, but they're certainly going to pay if they make it into St. Petersburg. We'll see. All right, I think I'm going to have to hold off on the land operation for this impulse because there's almost certainly going to be a battle. Okay, so the Russians did a combined attack, several units. Oops, I got an extra one of these in there, against the Swedes here, and they drove them back a hex. This was not a pursuit this time, but they did significant damage to them, 6 hits. They actually managed to get the cav wing and this other unit, which was released because the Swedes are near there, coordinated into an attack. Everything came in. They did 6 hits, 3 wings out of combat, while there were only 2 Swedish wings, so obviously they're broken there. They managed to wound a Swedish general, which is no big deal. He's just out of the cup for a turn. I gotta sort these guys. But that does give the Russians yet another prestige point. So they're building their way up. They're destroying the Swedish army. It's probably not going to make it to St. Petersburg. Overall, this is working out better for the Russians than being able to attack here. The Swedish gamble to rush for St. Petersburg is badly flawed, it seems. Anyway, that'll move us up to the second impulse of this turn. Okay, third impulse. What we had was another weather change, another wind change, and we've got a gale moving up this way into where the St. Petersburg area is. That made the Russians have a harder time moving forward. If that wasn't a gale force wind, they could have automatically moved on 2 actions, but, well, on 2 impulses, or 2 increments. But they got stuck here and weren't able to actually move all the way up. They had to come out, so that wasn't that. It did make things easier, though, for the Swedes to start moving their galley closer to the shore. Let's see what else. These guys are up to their 3rd impulse, or yeah, impulse there. They get 1 more, they succeed in their mission. Over here, the Russians failed in their attempt to move into this space. They don't have any more auxiliaries to scout with. So they can't tell that the Swedes are still safe to attack. That's kind of disturbing given where the Swedes are, and they managed to move just one space because the roads have been negated by the mud conditions. So they moved here, took some attrition losses for that. And they're almost at St. Petersburg. At the end of this turn, they're going to probably succeed with their mission. They're probably going to declare it successful at that point rather than try to lay siege to St. Petersburg. This is sort of the best situation they can get at this time, because otherwise they're just going to be eliminated if they keep pressing on this. So one more impulse to go in this turn. Okay, well, first of all, I lied. There's two more impulses left, and this is the first one. The winds changed again. We lost that west-southwest and ended up with just the northwest, but that's actually a gale strength now. We've got some there, and actually I haven't moved that. It's got 2 moves to do. Now this has to go into here. It's kind of crossing Denmark. Special rules for that particular wind, where it's kind of not really on the board anymore, but it'll be popping out next movement impulse. But here's what happened. The Russians sailed into here. They're ready for an attack. They could have done this from a distance, but they're going to launch a fleet auxiliary to try to search for their enemy. And now I was not very clever here, because I didn't look at how this aligns up. This is the screening matrix. Well, I would have been better off with a light auxiliary. I'm not sure I have one. I thought actually, yeah, I've got one kicking around down here. They're better for searching with. I've got that kicking around with my support convoy. I thought I was going to see a battle here, but there's no die roll or anything. You just look to see if you succeed or not. And what we have here is a successful screening, because the Swedes have a light auxiliary, which they're playing to screen that. This is done secretly at this point, but that's okay. So if we do a fleet versus a light, we get a no. What does a no mean? Oh, a no means it failed to screen, or the screen was a failure, which means we have detected them. So we get to go to a naval battle, it looks like. Whew. Haven't done one of these for a while. In this game. So let's see. We have a battle subsection here. We determined it can take place. We pause the impulse. Okay. So anything else that could move would, and actually we do have a little bit of movement here with this guy. These guys could try to slip home, these Russians. They've fulfilled their mission, and they would kind of like to. I don't feel like anything's going to happen. So I'm going to try to get back here. These are both galley forces, so they can just push into here, and I'll leave that there because it's not doing any harm, really. This guy is also able to automatically land, and we now have these troops here in Rauma. If I can find that. That's going to be in kind of an annoying place. Looks like it's up here. That is going to create a quick garrison there, I guess. And that is Guard Cav. I could create a command for that. Not yet, I don't think. So there we go. And I'm going to want to probably administratively move them into somewhat more useful location. Okay. But now we're at the point where we are going to handle this movement. And we announced the initial engaged formation. So that's going to be declaring what squadrons we have available here. Now, the Russians have very little, actually. They have 3 of these 4th Raiders. Let's see what our buddies, the Swedes, have. They're going to have their flotilla in play. They have a much larger fleet. 4 of those 4th Raiders, a frigate, and a ship of the line. So they have a stronger fleet in place. Let's see if I can get this, and maybe the other one over here so that I don't have to wander around as much. Alright. Now we want to determine the weather gauge. Well, that's done. Yeah, There we go. There's a chart for that, of course. Okay, so we have a base chance of 10 here, and I've gone over this in the rules, I remember. Who's on station? The Swedes are on station, so they're going to have a quick -5 to that. That's not good. You want the higher number. The Russians were approaching by catching the wind. Yes, so they're going to be at -6, so they're doing a little worse right now. I should use the colors appropriate. So we'll put the -6 for the Russians and the -5 for the Swedes. Neither formation has a movement allowance of 5. Neither one's badly damaged. Neither one's a galley formation. And now we look at the leadership ratings, and we have the need to look at the charts to make sure I understand the number. I think it's, well, obviously there it's going to be a 2, but leadership is the first number. Okay. Control is the second number, so I don't have a penalty there. So that's 2 added to the Russians, so they're a 4 penalty, and the Swedes have a 5 added, so the Swedes win the wind gauge. Now they could withdraw from this battle, which does not hurt them, because they just have to sit around here. They're at 3. So they're going to refuse the battle because they have the wind gauge. And there we go. Did they really need to do that? No, not particularly. Maybe it would have been a good idea to fight a battle. They know what they're facing. They know they outnumber it. They can only command 3 of these, so I would leave the frigate out. It's a hard call. Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to evade the battle. I'm gonna let the Russians come to me because I think I can defeat them. Okay. So we're not going to withdraw, and the Russians don't get to. We assign leaders to specific squadrons. I'll assign the Russian leader to that one, and I'll assign the Swede. I'm not sure that there's any requirement for this, but I'm going to give him the heaviest of the ships. Whoops. No, that's his order. Okay. And how much time we got left? Okay. Getting a bigger video card here. Okay, so now we determine the battle intensity. Well, I kind of needed to see my leaders for that. Here I've got an aggressive leader for the Swedes, and for the Ruskies, I've got a timid leader, or cowardly. You know what? I probably couldn't attack because I'm not big enough. I think I probably have to make a roll against leadership to succeed. I succeeded. But I gotta check to make sure. Yeah, yes. Let me make sure that that's correct. Yes, but it wasn't a crap. It wasn't a leadership check, it was a strategy check. I'm not sure who against. I think probably against this fellow up here. I lost my page on that, and I don't want to look it back. A 0 certainly would have gotten it. Now, that means the Russians could attack. They do want to. This is their only chance to disrupt that Swedish thing situation. So the other question is, of course, do the Swedes want to withdraw? I decided I'm going to fight with them. So we keep going, and we pull this back and try not to knock everything all over the place. Okay. So battle reinforcements, there aren't any, I don't think. Assign leaders to squadron. Battle intensity. All right, for battle intensity, the Swedes have the wind gauge, so they get to choose the base intensity here. Now, they also have their own ratings. They're aggressive with the wind gauge, which puts them here. The other one is timid, so that's going to reduce the wind gauge by 1. If I choose heavy, it goes down to medium. I'll go for that because I think I've got the advantage here. I'm fighting it because of that reason. I determine the damage levels. That's 832. Let's see. Damage levels. That's rolling a die here. Now that's just one die for the whole battle, if I recall correctly. So I get a 9. That means my damage level will be 1. Alright. And now I'm going to be fighting individual combats, and these will be over on this one chart. Now, what do these L, G, and F mean? Damned if I know. I've tried looking for that, and I'm not very good at focusing nowadays. I haven't been able to find it in the rules, though, so, well, maybe somebody will be able to tell me. All right. Almost looks like light galleys, frigates, I don't know, but that doesn't even make sense. All right, let's see what happens with the with that. Arrange into a series of combats. Well, this is kind of a complicated situation. I think the guy without the wind gauge puts forward a ship. Okay, so he's going to put forward his SOL with just one ship on it. And now the Swedes get the option to call theirs into play. And they'll call a 2-point SOL against it. But here's what's tricky. There's only 2 ships, 2 squadrons under command for the Russians. This is kind of like the wings situation, except there's no absolute limit on this. Here I'm allowed 3, which is going to be everything but the frigate. Now I'm just going to put my 2 SOL against his 1 SOL. I think that's a fair trade, and I'll use the other squadrons against his big one. But I have the opportunity to bring additional ones in, 1 additional per because of the medium weight. Now for the combat chart, I look at the damage level. I create combats by creating a pair. I did that. All right, column shifts are going to be leadership ratings. There are no leaders in this battle. The leaders are in the other sub-combat in this battle. And let's see. Use the worst squadron shift. Some squadrons, for example, these galleys, have a shift number on them. These guys do not. You would see, however, if I had the frigate, it has one on it, a -2. Just like the galleys do. Okay, great. So there's an extra damage point that the Swedes are going to do to the Russians for having an extra sail, and there's no penalty for firing those things. Now, what I'm looking for here is whether or not it's just 1 die roll. I seem to recall it is, but I gotta look. Indeed it is. Over on the land table, I think it's not, but I've forgotten now. When you've got different systems like that in play in the same game, and yes, I know they're different games, but they are linked, I have real trouble remembering that. I can remember something weird like that in one game. Okay, so we're on the 1, essentially, with a +1 for the Swedes, and that's all we got. And what we got here was a roll of 0, which means the Swedes do 4 damage points to the Russians. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the Russians are already beginning to suffer some effects of damage, but they don't lose a ship until, or they don't have a chance of losing a ship until they go over the 8. And likewise, the Swedish squadron takes 3 hits. Now it is already somewhat damaged, so it's going higher. And now we do the same for the other one, but there is a modifier here, which is there's column shifts based on the leadership rating. Now, and I've got more ships too. I've got 3 ships instead of just 2. Okay, so I've got a leadership rating of 5 here. This guy had a 2, so that's going to give me 3 column shifts. So the Swedes will be over on 4. This will be at 1. And now number of sail, it's 2 to 3, I think. Got an SOL and I got the flagship. So 2 to 3 means I have a +1 to the Swedes as well. And I roll the die, and we're running out of time here. 5, that means The Russians do 1 to the Swedes, and the Swedes do 4 to the Russians. Now that's the first round of this combat. We'll take the Swedish loss there. Okay, well, we'll take a little break here as we... This was a fairly minor skirmish. Nobody sunk anything. The battle is actually over with that light damage at range. That's all there is. You don't fight additional rounds of this as far as I can tell. Which is different from how the land combat works. So there was kind of a long-range engagement, and that's it. That's the end of the third impulse over here on the naval side. No, not yet. We've got more movement points to go. So now the question is, do the Russians want to stick around? They've taken some significant hits on their fleet here. Now, asterisk results would be a leader loss possibility. We didn't see that. And that's really where the hard call is. Do the Russians want to stick around? They have spotted the Swedes, so they can actually keep hitting it. If I make it to the end of this round, the Swedes, they should be at 3 right now. At the end of this impulse, the Swedes actually succeed in their mission. And that's kind of the problem here. So, I don't know. I'm outgunned. There's no question. I'm outleadered. I'm unlikely to do much of value by sticking around, but I'll give them a slight chance. Now, the Russians are not going to pursue this next round for that. Now, what I should have been doing is using these little markers to indicate who's moving where. I haven't been doing that because I know in my head where things are going to move. Alright, so now it comes hard because I'm on that third movement impulse and I don't know what to do. I think I'm going to move my Russians. The Swedes actually did make their 4th, so they're also moving on. They don't particularly want to fight this. I think they're going to go north and try to hit those galleys on the coast. We'll see how that works out. Oh, geez. Screening just prevents you from being able to use the search table. I should have been rolling on this search table. So here the Russians should have gotten a 0 through 5 to be able to see. They didn't. I'm going to let it stand because it's screwed up. But that means here where I'm searching, and now let's see if the galley is able... I have a light auxiliary I can try to cancel that the Swedish light auxiliary with. Now I page through here. Light versus light. Yes, it's screened. I think that means we do not get the task done. So these both get thrown in their recovery box. And my Swedes failed to discover what they were looking for in the third impulse. God, yeah, okay. Third movement increment, but I'm cheating. I couldn't move here anyway because I need to stay here to pick up that 4th. It's not by movement impulses, it's by, or it's not by movement increments, it's by impulses, God. So I do have to stick around. The Russians are going to try to slip home, and they're going to succeed too. I did that search, though, and what the hell. So now I've got a 4th action to take. Honestly, the type of confusion that you saw me with there, that is how this game hits me almost all the time. Maybe the way I play it, walking away for a while, but just nothing sinks in. I haven't been able to grasp the rules sitting out on the porch reading them. I hadn't been able to grasp them playing through it. They just don't stick with me. And that may be my fault. I'm not sure what else to blame it on, to tell you the truth. Because you'd think once you go through that procedure a few times, and I haven't gone through it many, that it would stick to you. But it doesn't. There's just too many things in this game system And it's not just a matter of combining the two games. That certainly has made my job harder. But playing even just one of them, there's too much for me to keep in the air in my head. That's not a big deal when I'm just soloing it. Because, am I not just soloing it now? No, I'm doing it on camera and making a fool of myself. When I'm playing it solo, I can say, ah, shit, I screwed that up. Oh, well, the hell with it. I'll just let it stand. And you may see me do that here and there like I did there. But I'm doing it far too often with this game system. More than I'm comfortable with. And I'm pretty comfortable and willing to say, ah, screw it. I screwed up. This thing should be gone now. I've removed those squadrons. They're not going to do anything. Okay, so now we'll do the third impulse over here on the land side. Over there we have a serious problem. The Russians... The Swedes were back here. The Russians can't reach the Swedes. Because of the mud and everything, they could only move this hex. That means the Swedes could move here. The next turn, the Russians would not be able to get any further than here for the next impulse. So, the Russians just stood still. They don't want to take additional attrition checks there. So the Swedes were able to slip into St. Petersburg. Now they took some more losses, great. But they're in position now. I can't bring those guards out, not because of the guards' special rules, but because they're in a garrison. They weren't already dispatched to be a field army, so they're just going to sit there and take this siege. Now, it's not really a siege, it's just a blockade. I don't believe that the Swedes have a chance of taking that Russian fortress. It's a fairly potent one, I'd assume. Let's see. Well, it's a big blue star. That's pretty obvious that that's something. Of course, that's not on here. Yeah. Okay, so there's no fort there. But there's this walled town looking stuff here. So I'm assuming that it counts as a walled town, at least a grade 3 fort. I don't see a citadel there attached, but maybe I'm missing something. I see lots of little things there, but none of them seem to be the little things that matter over here. So I guess that's about it. It's a level 3 fort. I don't think I can take it, so I'm just going to park there, get my success on my mission at the end of this turn, and I'm also going to force the die roll on this turn. It might give me a truce, some chance to recover from this crap that happened to me. Anyway, that's where we are right now. The Russians sitting tight. Now that's going to pretty much be going on through the fourth impulse as well, but we have the possibility of some naval actions happening on the fourth impulse. It's not going to be much though, and by the way, I moved this over here to the succeed orders. This is in the succeed orders. The reason the naval action isn't going to be anything is nobody's got any auxiliaries left that they can commit. Now, if I wait till the end of the turn, I can get fresh auxiliaries onto those fleets and do something, but I kind of do want to get back before it gets too cold. You don't want to be stuck out in the ice as it forms. And we finish things up over here. The wind changed again. Very helpful to the Swedes. We got a east-northeast. Actually, I think this guy's flipped over. I think that happens between impulses. The Russians have sailed into their ports. They're going to go into ordinary so they can start repairing. The Swedes have a longer way back to get to Karlskrona. They should be able to make it there before the weather gets too bad. We actually had a wind change, a wind effect over here on this northwestern wind. It had been gale force blowing down around here. It got another gale result on the same wind, so it upped the level. Didn't end up doing anything because I was already too far down, so it just petered out. But it's kind of an interesting factor that comes in. Over here, I don't think I want to do anything. The Russians still don't want to move. They're going to have to pay too many movement points, and therefore a high attrition. The Swedes can't upgrade to investiture because they don't have a supply source down here. This is the best they can do, is camp outside and wave their flag around a little bit. So we'll go on to the administrative stuff, at which point we'll see that coup taking, we'll see where the coup takes. Okay, now I started the administrative side of things, and I kind of have to bounce between the maps here. But over here on the land map, I have the opportunity to perhaps cause the coup to happen. I need to roll a 2 or less to force it to happen this early turn by being that. I did not succeed, and that means the Russians are going to get a chance maybe next turn to push their way down. They could have gotten closer this turn, so they may be able to prevent the bonus. But this campaign, see, here's the problem. I could declare the campaign over and get my points for it. I did not launch the coup. And that's the problem, is that I'm not allowed to stick around, well, to move closer to St. Petersburg without declaring it. So I'm going to declare this a victory for the campaign. I don't have to move. I can actually end my campaign and not pick up another one. Of course, that is probably sacrificing these forces. God knows what's going to happen to the poor fellas. But maybe if I get a truce out of this, that'll work out okay. Or maybe if the Russians attack, I'll get lucky or something. We'll see. Looking over the way this is worded, it looks like it has to make it to the coup resolution to get the prestige. So I'm going to have to stick around there until the coup actually takes place and see what comes up. Otherwise, I don't get those points. So, yeah, I'm in danger here. We'll see if the Russians can make it down and break that up. It's only worth 2 prestige points. Of course, the Russians are going to lose 1 for not succeeding in this as well. But, I think I'm done with the land stuff. I got to do a little bit more on the naval side, and then we're done with this.